Hey everyone, welcome back to Crypto Cash. Thank you so much for joining me here today. We're taking a look at Alice. And Alice is a very, very awesome and interesting coin in the sense that it increases exponentially when Bitcoin does well and also will decrease potentially exponentially as well when Bitcoin does poorly. So, it's one of those heightened scenarios, and we'll take a look at that here, of course. But this is just your one-stop shop for cryptocurrency analysis, among many other things, of course, because I do have a signal group. Feel free to reference that in your own time. I just send 2 to 4 signals per week that are basically just sharing my entry points, my best practice with you. Okay, we always take a close look at Bitcoin as well to always understand the bit market. And here today, we're going to take a look at Bitcoin, Ethereum first to kind of get a baseline. That's the important thing to do if you're a good trader, is to understand what's going on, because Bitcoin controls the market. Either way, this is for educational purposes only. You should only do your own research, right? So always make sure you do your own research, take ownership of your trades. But furthermore, just note that I have years of trading experience. My goal is to help you become a better trader. So if you stick around, you'll learn a thing or two here today, and I hope you do. And of course, enjoy your time too. So thanks again for joining me here. And of course, thank you to my community for asking that I cover this. I really appreciate all of your recommendations. Hope you have a good rest of your day, and we'll see you in the next one. Check it out. All right, folks, let's go and take a look at Alice. And just before we do, we look at Bitcoin, Ethereum first to get a quick baseline of the market so we know exactly what's going on, just before we take a look at the altcoins here today. So at this point, let's go ahead and look at Bitcoin first. Now, right now, at this point in time, Bitcoin, first of all, is doing quite well at about 34,100. Now, it should likely decrease, because I did notice on the one-day chart that we have a rejection at the, about 34,500. So at this point, I do feel like it's going to continue to digress, because that short squeeze from earlier today didn't last very long, got rejected, okay? So I think there's a good chance we're going to see it kind of turn around and probably come back down to test the 200. It's the 200-day simple moving average on the 4-hour chart, okay? So that's kind of where we're at. So the price is over the 200, over the 50, and we're looking right now with the price action somewhere around 34,100. Major support level 33,000, major resistance 36,500, and of course another major resistance at about 41,000. All right, so moving on to Ethereum. Ethereum is performing very similar to Bitcoin. It's kind of like the ugly stepchild, or whatever term you want to consider it as. It tends to just follow Bitcoin to a T. It's kind of a mirror image, so to speak, when it used to be the go-to coin. Now at this point, I don't think we're going to see this come up and test the next major resistance at about 2,400 until we see Bitcoin jump up to about 36.5. There's a chance of that, of course, but I feel like we're going to see the price retrace back down soon with Bitcoin, which means that Ethereum would also retrace as well. All right, moving on to Alice. Let's go ahead and take a look at the one-day chart first. Now this, I believe, was the ICO date. Correct me if I'm wrong, but if nothing else, it was at least introduced to Binance on that date. We have enough information here to go on, and I primarily just like to look at the timeframes in which Bitcoin sold off to see how this one is impacted. All right, so if we look at this, it's pretty obvious to see here. We've got the April 17, 18. That is the first major Bitcoin sell-off, and then we got the 22nd as well, second major. And then everything ramped back up because Bitcoin recovered and went sideways for some time from the 25th until the end of the month around May 1st. So it's a pretty normal increase that we see a lot of altcoins. So it got a little too high, upwards of almost $20. And then it kind of started to retrace itself back down about 50% of the way. And then we enter, the Elon candle here, drove the price down, tried to recover. And then, of course, the China candle sent everything in a tizzy. And unfortunately, the price has been that low ever since, minus the last 48 hours, okay? So obviously, Alice is having a pretty strong ramp up. So, you can only hold the price down for so long. You can see it almost tested 30 on the RSI back on June 22nd. So, long story short here, we finally have that convergence on the MACD, which sent the price jumping up, concurrent with Bitcoin. Again, if Bitcoin sells off and retraces back down to the 200 simple moving average on the 4-hour chart, then I would say that Alice will likely retrace. There's a good chance it'll retrace anyways, just based on the natural law of how retracement works in crypto. Oftentimes, whichever bars you see, so if you just count these two bars as one, just say 2 days is 1 day, it's an increase of just say 94% to its highest point. That being said, we should expect to see the retracement come back down right around here at about 825. Again, splitting the difference about halfway, that's a common retracement. The Fibonacci retracement tool also kind of shows us that. All right, so that's kind of where we're at here for Alice in the 1-day chart. Let's move on to the 4-hour chart. Price is above 200 and the 50. Big surprise there. What I want to do first though is mark the convergence on the 4-hour chart. So July 20th, 1700. Let's go ahead and mark that there. So July 20th, 1700 is right here. So that's roughly when we had a convergence on the MACD. Now I like to show that or mark that because if we look at the 1-hour chart and we look at the Ichimoku Cloud, there's usually a strong correlation. And I think it's good to point that out because those two things can help, give you an indication of a buy signal. All right. So furthermore, why don't we go ahead and move on to the 1-hour chart? Oh, just to clarify, RSI is up over 70. So the common rule of thumb there isn't to sell as soon as it peaks over 70, is to consider trimming and or selling your position you're planning to exit and take a profit before or as the price is retracing back down to 70. So if this comes back down to say, for example, you want to probably try to sell somewhere in this range here. Okay. All right, so that's kind of where we're at there for the 4-hour chart. 1-hour chart, let's go ahead and take a look at the cloud, see what's going on, see what it's telling us here. So here we go, big surprise, the price above the cloud, considered a buy signal. So if you're new to the channel or just in general, Ichimoku Cloud, roughly there. Actually, let's go ahead and do a better line there. That is a point in which you'd want to take entry because the price is above the cloud, right? And of course, when the price is below the cloud, that's a consideration for a short position. So this would have been an awesome short position here. You could have netted yourself somewhere in the range of about 40%, right? But that's just generally how the Ichimoku Cloud works. And why I like to mark the 4-hour chart for the MACD is the fact that that's kind of like a premonition, right? It was telling us that there's a convergence when the 12 is intersecting with the 26, the EMA lines essentially on the MACD. It brought us this signal here. So approximately this 4-hour time frame is when it told us to buy. Furthermore, no less than 6 to 8 hours later, Alice gave us another buy signal with the Ichimoku Cloud telling us that, hey, we're above the cloud, time to buy. So that would have been a great consideration for a buy signal. Those are usually things I like to look for, and had you just say got in at that point, would be a range of about 110%. So that's a pretty good profit there. So unfortunately, I didn't have an alert set up for this one. I actually took some profit on this through my signal group a week or two ago, but unfortunately we missed that signal. So normally what I'll do is once we finish this video, I'll add some alerts to my MACD to kind of see if we can essentially be able to get another alert next time that happens. But with it being overextended to an extent, there's a chance that we won't get that MACD signal for some time. Hopefully we see Bitcoin sell off a little bit and then the price retrace back down, we can get another MACD indication. All right, so those are just things to look for. Let's also take a quick look at TD sequential, and as we can see, we have reached a state of exhaustion here. So if you take a look at here, we've counted all the way up from 1 to 9. So 1, 2, 3 more bars. We are likely to see a retracement very, very soon here with Alice. So I would say that we are in overtime right now. You only usually see 1 or 2 more bars before we get a full-on reset. So I think that we're going to see the price come down. But again, it really depends on how Bitcoin's doing. We'll look back at Bitcoin here. It is kind of hovering around 34,084 right now. So if it continues to regress and come back down, then we'll see Alice essentially do the same thing. All right. So again, it's contingent on Bitcoin to an extent, right? But it's also moving independent of it, so to speak. In other words, it's exponentially increasing as Bitcoin just increases. If that makes sense. So just something to be aware of. Okay. Let's go ahead and move on to the 15-minute chart, and I'll quickly explain the EMA and View app notification. And what we're taking a look at here is just a simple fact that the red line is the EMA 15. That's the 15 that I use myself. It's my favorite moving average, my favorite exponential moving average. And essentially what it does, it just tells us that the bulls are in control when the price is above the EMA line, right? So we mark this here. You can kind of see price being above. This is an indication of a buy signal right here. I got this little notification signal that tells me, and then of course price comes down, it bounces and bounces again. So we're still in essentially a bull run. Just keep in mind there's a strong chance of retracement based on the fact that it's increased so much for so long, right? Last 48 hours we've seen nothing but green bars. You can expect to start seeing some red bars soon, right? Especially on the 1-day chart. I think we're going to see some sideways action, possibly even some retracement. I hope that Alice continues to go up and continue to do well, but it's mostly contingent on Bitcoin. Okay, just bear in mind if Bitcoin starts to retrace and come back down towards the 200 simple moving average, then we're going to see Alice take a nosedive. Maybe not completely, but we will see that again that 50% retracement because again, it's increasing exponentially, but bear this in mind, it will likely decrease exponentially too. So I recommend setting a good, a tight stop on something like this. If you have a long position open, keep moving your stop up as the price goes up, so that way you take profits when you can. Because there's a good chance it'll retrace. And the reason why I say that too is if you just look at the 1-day chart here, yes, it's doing really well here today, but look, it's at 1140 when the average true range is somewhere in the range of $8 upwards of 18. So we're right in the middle of that range right now. So I feel like it's going to cap out soon. Of course, it could come back up to about $20. There's no doubt that that's a possibility, but it won't happen until Bitcoin breaks 36,500 or if nothing else, 40,000. Okay? Which is why we look at Bitcoin first, right? So just something to note. Furthermore, price over VWAP, which is the volume weighted average price, expressing the price, the volume as a price of the last 24 hours. And if you can see the standard deviation here, look at how the difference there, that's over 30% or at 30% at its highest point. So I expect some type of retracement soon because the VWAP is getting too far away. That standard deviation is too large and it has to correct itself. So just be prepared and be mindful of that. But that's kind of what we're looking at here. So hopefully you found benefit from this. If you do, like and subscribe. My prediction, just so you know, is of course that the price will kind of go sideways and will retrace just based on Bitcoin's movement, because I do feel like Bitcoin will reverse and come back down to somewhere in a range of about 34,000, 33,000 to test the 200-day simple moving average on the 4-hour chart. I hope I'm wrong, but if I'm right, I hate to say I told you so. Either way, thanks again for joining me. Hope you have a great rest of your day. We'll see you in the next one.